Hello, and welcome to another episode of Thrive Like a Parent podcast. Today is actually take 2 of a podcast that I've already done, and I'm here with a special guest, and it's actually my boyfriend, Carter. Carter, say hello.
Hello.
And the reason we're doing take 2 is for multiple reasons. I had Nadia listen to the first one, and basically her feedback was, you guys are the cutest things ever. It was the first time she felt like she had ever seen me nervous in a podcast. And Carter and I, the whole time we felt uncomfortable. So now we're doing this our way and we're in our own clothes and we're
trying it this way.
We're trying it this way to just be ourselves. But another thing that we recognized from the first time that we did it was there's so much good that we want to talk about, which is one of the reasons why I'm introducing you to him. And we touched on so many different topics, but we didn't get to dive deep into each one of them. And we know that we will do that later on. And so we're doing round 2.
Round 2.
To try and make this as normal,
as natural and normal
as possible,
as it possibly could be.
Sure. Yes. So
it's still gonna be weird.
We've moved the couch, which is not normal, and we have lights on, which is not normal.
We're talking into a microphone.
We're talking into
one another.
That's true.
Also not normal.
That's true. But with that being said, why don't you, Carter, tell everyone a little about yourself?
Obviously, I'm Carter. Dating Brooke. Been dating for a couple years-ish, almost. I am.
Surprise!
Instagram's the best kept secret over here. Besides being Brooke's boyfriend, I am also a father. I also do some coaching, have a couple of different businesses, and work with men to unleash their masculinity in a healthy way so that they can support themselves and their partner. And yeah. As
we were kind of thinking about this and contemplating all the reasons why we both of us wanted to have you on the podcast and introduce you into my life, and we'll go into those later. I think the first thing to kind of start with is the glaring question of why it's taken me so long.
The why not.
So for those of you who are curious, I'm sure the first question will be, how did you guys meet? Carter and I met on social media. He slid in my DMs.
But not intentionally trying to.
It wasn't to be like, hey, let's
go on a date. Sliding in the DMs, not trying to get into other things at that moment. It was
and
just kind of, hey, how you doing?
Your message to me was so kind and so gentle, and I could tell that it was coming from a really good place. I could tell that it was genuine, and it didn't feel like you were actually trying to go on a date with me. You were just nice.
Just seeing how you were.
Yeah, and
you want me to elaborate on that at all? Or?
Sure.
So the condensed version of this would be, a friend of mine shared this video of this woman dancing wildly on her countertops to Return of the Mac, but it was Return of the Mask during COVID. And I was like, this is hilarious. This woman's really funny. I've got to see what other content she's come up with. So I check Brooke's page out. I see a little highlight reel about grief, and there's not a lot on there at the time that I'm looking at it, but it's clear that she's experienced a very major loss. Obviously no details behind it, just her husband's no longer with her or the kids. And I was kind of going through a personal journey at that time where I was really in a place of like working on positivity within myself. I don't know. There's something when I saw this, I just thought, random acts of kindness, if you will, and I'm just going to reach out and say hello, and that I hope wherever you may be in the world today that you're having an okay day, and just kind of put some positive vibes out there. So that's what I did.
I wonder if I can find the text. Are you ready?
This will be the first time hearing it since I've said it, I guess. I didn't know you had this.
Of course I have it.
Surprises are coming out.
A friend of mine shared your mask reel, which was fucking hilarious. So I decided to see what other humorous vids you had come up with. Then I came across your grief story and was curious what it was about. I have no clue who you are, and I cannot fathom the level of loss you have experienced and what you are going through with that. I do know a thing or two about raising a child in a single parent environment, and it's hard. That's a struggle I can relate to. The positivity that you are putting out there is going to work wonders for them throughout whatever situation you and they encounter. It looks like you give moms advice or mentor them about all sorts of things. So I'm sure you knew this already. I just kind of felt led to reach out. I can't really explain it, but maybe you needed to hear it today. Who knows? You're doing amazing, even on the days that you may feel you aren't. Children pick up on everything, and I'm sure they're extremely grateful to such a solid mom. And then you kept showing up. I noticed it, and I think I probably said something like, thanks. And then the thing with Charlie's school happened, where Charlie was restrained, and I was like, oh no. And
may have offered to break some legs.
I went on social
exactly
media.
Recall the comment, but now that it's coming back, there may have been.
Yes, for those of you who've been around for a while, we got kicked out of that school because I talked about it on social media, and I was like, wait a second, this just happened. Is this okay? Like, I was processing it, and Carter was like, down to break some legs. I don't know you, but I'm down to break some legs, or something like that.
Of that nature.
And I was like, you just keep showing up. And I didn't really notice you at the time, but then you kept messaging back, and I looked at your profile, and I was like, oh, he's cute. And I was like, oh, he lives in my area. And then I think I gave you my number, and we texted for a while, and then we got coffee. And then we were friends for about 6 months.
Yeah, 6-ish.
And we both were not looking for anything. No. We often,
no relationship.
We often look at each other, we're like,
side.
Damn it, we didn't want this, but we're still here 2 years later.
How is this going?
Yeah. How is it? Yeah.
I mean,
how
is
this still
going?
Yeah.
I think, but it's.
Well, I mean, we're still in it.
How are we still in this spot when neither of us want it? That's what I'm saying.
I think because it's a lot of reasons, but I think it's because it's working, and because we put the effort and time in, and for many, many different reasons. And that's one of the reasons why I think we wanted to do this, is because I have not just had trauma in my life with Jonathan passing, but I've spoken about my relationship, especially on the podcast. And my relationship with Jonathan was not a healthy one. And I think going through something like I've been through, it's been a huge learning process as well as healing process. I think I knew, and I could envision the type of relationship that I wanted, and in terms of what I felt a healthy relationship would look like. But I think it's another thing to bring that relationship to fruition. And along the way, there have been moments, I guess, of growth for me where I had to, a few things. I had to trust the process of us. I had to trust you. I had to let my walls down. I had to be vulnerable. I had to communicate. All the things that are really hard. And they're especially really hard when you've been through such trauma like I have. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why it's taken me so long to share you with the world, is because of the things that I needed to move through and heal, like do a lot of healing. But also, I think it just goes to show the amount of trauma that someone goes through. And maybe that's helpful for someone else to hear, of like, it's taken me 2 years to be able to be like, hi, I'm in a committed relationship, you know? But I think that it demonstrates the level of trauma that I went through and had to kind of heal through, and the amount of walls that I had put up, that I needed to like put, you know, have them slowly crumble down. But it's not just the walls, but it's more of like the safety of like letting someone in at that level, and building that trust. And I really feel like it's the safety of that we've built.
I think the trust is a big aspect just in things that I know, things that you may have shared about your marriage, and then some of the relationships I've been in the past where I've trusted women and things have not been what I thought they were in a few different ways. So I think for both of us that's probably one of the reasons that this works as well, or is as strong as it is, because we've learned. That's not to say there haven't been some hiccups on both sides of this, but we've learned to trust one another, and we have worked through anything that we may feel has come up that either didn't feel good, reminded us of things in the past, or we felt maybe could jeopardize our trust for one another. And we've talked about it, we've communicated, we've shared our sides of things, and usually reach a very stable and healthy resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the trust aspect in this has been huge, along with the communication.
Yeah, I think that when I think I had this mentality, I don't know if it's like from, you know, I've talked about it in the past of like, you watch all these Disney movies and you watch these like rom-coms growing up, and like, I was so young. I was 24 when I met Jonathan. I was 25 when I got married. And yes, I'm still Brooke, but I'm for sure more mature, you know, version of that. And a lot of people say like, I'm not the person I was anymore or back then, but like, I'm still Brooke, but I'm a totally different version of Brooke. And I think when I originally thought like, I had a checklist, if you will, of like, this is what marriage should look like, or this is what the human in my life should look like. And I was like blindly trusting of my partner, of like, of course this will just work out. Like, of course that communication will be there. Of course we're going to tell each other the truth. Like, of course, like duh, like literally that, like dumbed down of like, of course, you know, but it definitely wasn't that at all. And I think for probably a good bit of the beginning of our relationship, that trust aspect and that safety aspect was like, well, there was a few things. Like, number one, if I'm fully myself, are you going to run? Because I do dance on tables, and I know.
We had to do a little bit of work to get you to really fully be yourself at times.
I did. And I
didn't run.
Right. But like, that's one of those things that's like, I knew what I wanted in a relationship, but having it come to fruition is completely different. Like, there was one time where I don't even remember like what stage of our relationship or how long we had been dating, but remember the time where you were literally just asking me questions and like trying to understand. And I was literally basically having a panic attack. And I at one point was like, in the corner of my bedroom with
ugly
like the
crying
dogs,
day.
the ugly
Yes,
crying day.
yes, that was an extreme
It was
working through the emotions that day.
That was like the
Yeah.
hardest. I was so afraid to tell you what I was thinking because I was so afraid of either your response or it triggered so much in me from like my relationship with Jonathan that I ended up like, I was like, we have to stop. We need to take a break. Like, and I was like almost hyperventilating, and I was seeking comfort, literally seeking comfort from the dogs, like in the corner of the room because I couldn't feel safe. And that ended in you like observing a need and taking a break. And then I got to watch a J-Lo rom-com. Like it was like you just, what do you need? Like the same thing that I teach all my clients of like, how do you feel? What do you need? Like you did that for me. And I think you cooked me dinner. You cooked me something.
I don't remember necessarily like, yeah, I don't know what
You're
it
like,
was.
we just need to get,
yes, I do. I sat and watched a little bit of the movie with you, which is J-Lo rom-coms are not my thing.
But you did it for me.
I did because you needed some support and you were going through a lot in that moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't leave. I gave you the space when you wanted it.
And then we had a really good conversation at the end of the evening to kind of circle back and finish out the conversation. But I think it's moments like that where I think, again, it's going back to I envisioned what I knew a healthy relationship could look like, and I wanted it to look like, and I like craved that healthiness in a relationship. And I felt like I knew all the values of what it could be, but getting there it wasn't easy. We had all the pieces, but like to allow almost me to trust that like you weren't gonna leave, or like trust that like I could be myself, or like trust that I could say the thing and you'd still love me even if I said this thing. And not defend.
You have a healthy relationship with someone who does not necessarily match the societal norms that were put upon you.
That's very true.
That's the funny thing too, is it's like the saying, you can't judge a book by its cover, but that's something we've talked about. Like, I do not look the part of what you were told you need or you should have, or what it looks like. But the relationship that we have and the love we have for one another is what matters. And it's like, that's what's solid. That's what keeps this going and keeps it working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether I fit a mold or you fit a mold or vice versa or not, like that's not really relevant.
Yeah, I think growing up in a really like tight-knit community, my parents taught me marriage is hard enough as it is. Why have one, quote, notch against you to begin with? Meaning like either finding someone Jewish or not Jewish, And I found a tall, which is not often, I found a tall, handy Jewish man. And I felt like I had like struck gold. Like I felt like I won the lottery with him. And I think, things went terribly wrong. Like as horrible as you can. This is like that. There's not much more that could potentially go wrong in a marriage, with a horrific ending to the marriage and a traumatic ending to the marriage. And I think because of that, it allowed me to toss all the shoulds out the window of like, oh, it should look like this, or it should be this type of a person, or it should be this or that. And it allowed me to focus in on continuing to go after, even though I, of course, didn't want a relationship, but somehow still go after that relationship or something with you, that I felt like there would be the makings of a really healthy partnership. And I've told you this before, but I think the healthy sign in the beginning of showing me that safety, right, was that you just kept checking in when we were friends. I'd be like, there he is again. I'd be like, there he is again. And I just like kind of watched it for a few months. And then when I was at Lauren's in St. Louis, I was like, this dude is a solid dude.
So many exchanges over that pairing of vacations
between
Denver and St. Louis.
I know.
There's a lot going on.
I did send you a lot because I think I finally realized I wanted to put effort in. And I definitely was coming home with a mission. I mean, not really a mission, but I was coming home clear that I wanted to try it out being more than friends with you.
I think you had tried it out a little bit prior to that.
Okay, fine. I think we were both trying to figure it out. Okay. You were too.
I didn't know. It got to a point where I wasn't really sure what connection I was seeking from you. And I think for a long time I was kind of open with that on the front end. Didn't know if, as we got further along in conversations and talking, we talk about kids, talk about work, talked about common interests, common thoughts, what we're going to do when the world ends, things of this nature, normal conversation people should have, right? And I didn't know the connection. Do I want a friendship with her? Do I want a business connection with her? I don't want a relationship with anybody, so that's out of the question. But yeah, it was nice too to have another single parent, because for the people that don't know me, been doing the single parent deal for, my daughter's 11. Been doing it since she was about 1.5. Now mom is in the picture and has some time, of course, that she gets to see her, but for the majority, she's with me. So to find another parent, you didn't have anybody else, so they're always with you, apart from sparing weekends here and there. But you got it. You understood where most of my friends were still either newly married or single, and they're like kids are the last thing on their mind, so they had no idea what scheduling looks like when you have a child, or having to say no to a bunch of different things, or just even the day in, day out struggle of this kid's driving me up the fucking wall. What am I going to do? I need a break, or I need to at least talk to a parent that gets it, because my old drinking buddies, those people, they have no clue what I'm describing. And most of them still don't. So it was cool to have a connection with someone that felt like they kind of aligned with where I was in life at the time. Similar values, I'd say. Yeah. And then we could bounce war stories off one another.
Yeah, we definitely connected on understanding each other's roles of what it's like to live with children and also have a career and be it all and do it all for our kids.
So we both work from home. We're both in that entrepreneurial realm of building businesses out of our houses. So there's that with kids. A lot of people, I think, they don't get that, is if you work from home and your kids are around, it's not the same as, let's say you're doing a startup or you're building a business and you have an office you go to, And you have a spouse, you have somebody else. Like that's the key thing. Neither of us have someone that it's like watch the kids for X amount of hours today because I've got to hammer out some work. So you're building a business in the time these kids are at school, and then you're still working when they come home, or you're working after they go to bed, and you're just burning the candle at both ends. It's exhausting, but it's what it takes to, as we've used a lot, keep the lights on for everybody. So
yeah,
we shared that as kind of a common ground as well, that entrepreneurial gearing.
Yeah, I'm thinking about our paddleboarding excursion.
Which one?
Well, we got coffee, and then we were talking back and forth. That was the first time we met.
Right.
And then
I was gonna say we didn't do coffee.
You were like,
paddleboarding.
Yeah, you were like, when are we? Like you said something about my paddleboard, and I was like, you should come, and you're like, I'm down. And then you came one time, and then I had no idea where that night would take us, and then we ended up getting dinner, and I think our communication was really strong.
I remember we did go paddleboarding, and then I think you still had a sitter for a while. We parted ways after paddleboarding, and I was like, well, I'm hungry, and I'm just going to go back to an empty house because my daughter was with her mom. So I think I texted you and was like, hey, you want to grab dinner somewhere? Because you already had a change of clothes.
Because I knew I'd go somewhere and get something. Or maybe I was just hoping that we would go to dinner. I didn't know if we would go to dinner. Maybe that was it.
So, yeah, then we went, grabbed some dinner. And I don't really know how we got on the topic of me and the changes I've made in my life.
I just started
various different things.
I just started probing and being like, "Are you okay with this?" And I just kept asking you all the questions.
I kept answering and talking. I remember at one point you were like, "Are you always this open with everyone?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't have anything to hide." But there was a flow. There was a feeling, I guess, of safety in that conversation. That it was just really an open exchange. I think. The way I looked at it was, if my brutal honesty about certain aspects of my past scare this woman away, that's okay. That's okay, because that's not the person that I need in my life. I mean, I hoped it wouldn't, but clearly it didn't. Here we are.
I think it was the same for me. Like, I had to, telling someone that I'm widowed, and telling someone that my husband took their own life, telling someone that I have 2 children, like, that's a lot to be like, hi, nice to meet you. Yeah. And I think it was really nice that you had kind of already seen that on my page. It's a lot to get into. And I think we both were just pretty darn open from the beginning of
what brought you to Texas.
What brought me to Texas. And all the things that have happened and taken place in your life as well.
Yeah.
And I think going back to, I think I definitely felt that safety with you. It was building right from the beginning. But I think it was really scary for me to think about. I mean, every time I put up a Q&A, people are like, are you dating anyone? Like, have you ever thought about dating again? And I'm like, wow.
You get that.
There's been so many times where I have a picture and I want to post it and be like with a little heart on your face.
This is true. On a road trip, I remember driving back with the kids from Amarillo.
Yes.
And somebody asked
December,
the question,
last year.
What type of man, or what's your type of man? And she turns and shows it's me wearing a bracelet Eli made or something. She's like, the one that wears the jewelry my kid makes.
It
At
was a
this
picture
point,
of your arm, and I couldn't do it.
at this point,
it's
I'm like,
that's a year ago.
it's not even a joke because it's not happening because you're
I
just that
know.
uncomfortable
I
at the
know.
time. And so it kind of like,
But I
just
wanted
kind
to
of,
so
but you
bad.
would tease it. You would
I
tease it a
know.
lot. And you would be like, she'd get these questions and send me these
It was like,
bullshit answers that would never get posted, to the point where finally I'm like, the joke's not even funny. It's not happening. Let me know when it's serious. Like I'll see it and then I'll believe it. But
you were very. We did have to have some conversations. Like, it was even hard for me to explain, and like,
yeah, I do recall there being times where, yeah, I mean there were events, there were things that we went and did together, and I'm like, we're here together, and
did I post something
we're
without
not
you in
gonna
it?
post a picture.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
we had this really great experience, but it's just you.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, for there were a few, I wouldn't say heated, but there were a few conversations that were kind of like, what's the deal with this? And and then we talked through it, and you kind of
It was
told me
hard for me to
why.
explain. It was
It's very
really
hard for you
hard.
to explain.
And I think it was so multifaceted. I think it's the safety aspect. I think it's, if I tell people I have this person and then it doesn't work out, I was so,
It was like a public loss, essentially, or a
yeah.
public failure, or
And I've been through so much physical and emotional pain already. Like, I was still moving through it with Jonathan, and that'll be a lifelong journey. But it was like, to think about grieving the loss of a relationship is one thing, but grieving the loss of the relationship and then having to tell the world, like my community, that it's like, now it's just, it added another layer, and it was like so scary to me that I needed to feel that safety of us and like focus on us and
right.
build that first. And I think it's
okay though. We love all of you. Thank you for the follows. You're strangers at the end of the day, apart from a handful. So it's we're worrying about
we
other
do
people's
love you
opinions.
all.
It's just
But it's not even their opinion. It's more of like, I think it's just the safety and like the fear of like, burr, 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 like the announcement, or I don't know what it was. I think I was so vulnerable and so fragile. I was like so fragile during, especially that first year that we were dating. And it's different. It's different. I can't speak. It's different dating with kids than it is without, because with Jonathan, I like met him and we spent every, waking minute together once we like fell in love and we got to know each other. But we had a lot to navigate of, especially in the beginning, and especially when we were friends and when we started dating, we wouldn't see each other for a long period of time, like days at a time, because the kids weren't,
kids
yeah,
for a while.
And so I truly believe that it takes, if you are someone who's dating with kids, I think we don't give it enough credit to say it takes a really long time to get to know someone. And I've told you this many times, but like I've said, I need like miles under the wheels. Like I need like miles and miles and miles of time. Like I just need like, I met Jonathan, we got engaged on our 1-year anniversary, and I wish that we had spent more years together so I could really get to know him. And I felt like I needed to live a lot of life with you to see how things happened, see how we moved through conflicts, see how we moved through communication, see how we, now the kids are immersed, and see how there was just so many things that I needed to feel comfortable with and feel that safety. I think in order to get to this point, and I also, you know, I I think walls are up in many different ways, but one of the ways that they were up specifically with men is at the end of my relationship with Jonathan, I started to feel and see writing on the wall. Like he almost chose me for like selfish reasons for his own gain. And
I'd say that did play a big part in trust.
I blindly trusted. Like, if, like, you know, what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours, till death do us part, like for better, for worse, sick or poor, rich, health. Like I like did it up. I was like, you're sick, I'm going to take care of you. Like, we need to do this, we're going to do it, you know, like, and that was not reciprocated or returned to me. And I didn't realize that at the time until the very end. I didn't realize that that should, in a healthy relationship, that should and can be reciprocated from your partner. And you showed me that all along the way, but I think I needed it like patterned in my brain. I needed to see it over and over to see, like, kind of like when I was crying in the corner that day, like, oh, okay, like he's not here for any other reason but me. Like, oh, like shit's hitting the fan with my children and he's still here. Like, oh, okay.
Even last night we had that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That's some of the stuff we're working through with one of them at the moment, and it's something we're doing together. It's not like it's your problem. See ya.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I've looked at you many times and been like, what has it been a question of like why, or I've asked myself like why you would want to stay, or like why I guess either posed it to you or I've told you that I've thought sometimes. I don't really have those thoughts anymore, but in the beginning I used to. Yeah, I'm making progress.
I used to get asked that question
a lot.
A good amount.
Like, why would you
still here?
Yeah.
Why would you want to take this on? And big questions to be asked too. I mean, they're big thoughts for you to have, but it's to be on the receiving end of a question and not really be looking at it through that lens. Like I'm just here because I'm choosing to be, or I want to be, and then get asked, why are you here?
Mm-hmm.
I go, guess I got to think about this. I don't know, but it's not something I really gave a whole lot of thought or worried about.
Yeah. And I think for me, I just needed reassurance to know that, like, because this is a lot. Like, it's a lot to take on. And you didn't take it on, but it's a lot to support someone. I mean,
this is like nothing I've ever done before.
I know.
I've dated many women, and not like
bring out the Rolodex.
I've been on, you know, a good amount of dates. I was actively dating, but not seeking a relationship for a while there. I'd been in a few, I guess I would consider them long-term relationships in my life. I just lost my train of thought. It's going somewhere else on what you said. I just completely lost it.
Of taking a lot on.
But as far as coming into a relationship or potentially coming into a relationship, not just one child, two children.
Two children who've been through trauma.
No father figure whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's like not necessarily his shoes, but the shoes to fill
of a male
are huge.
Yeah.
There's no one to teach them any of the things they need to be learning from their dad. Mm-hmm. He's not here. So, yeah, it was And we still see signs of it. We still see pieces where learning, of course, is continuing to occur and will continue to occur, and things that are having to be taught and reiterated or explained as to why we do or don't do certain things.
And discuss male parts.
Discuss male parts, male hygiene, things not to do with male parts.
So the first time Carter ever just took on, I don't know, the role or a role for the boys.
Brooke didn't really know how to talk to the kids about penises because she does not have one. So there were bathroom
it was hygiene. Yeah.
Like there was just a handful of things that went with the waist down that the kids just weren't getting.
And we thought it'd be good for them to hear it from a male.
Yeah, she was like, "Can you have one of these? You know what you're doing with they work and all these things. Can you talk to them about this?" So we did. Eli drew.
I took a picture of it because I was like, "This is a man conversation." It was the cutest thing. You popped some popcorn.
You popped some popcorn.
I popped the popcorn. They got in their pajamas, and you had like a powwow.
Yeah.
Here in the dining room.
Eli
that's now my
drew
office.
Booty cheeks, as he called it, on a sheet of paper. And
he was like
drew
taking
an
notes.
Ear, and he was like, "This is an ear on a booty cheek."
Oh, you probably said the way you wash. You were telling them how to wash themselves. Wash your ears. Wash your this. Wash your that. Like you were trying to.
I don't recall. It was.
I should have recorded it.
Should have.
But I did get the picture to be like, this is the first. And I remembered. I don't remember who I told. It was probably my family and maybe a few friends of like, Carter did this tonight. Isn't that so nice? Like he did this for the boys. And I think that it was so, for you, it was like, it needs doing. Like they need to learn. I'm a male, they're a male. Let's do this. For me, it was like, you don't understand. Like my children have never had someone to take initiative like this and teach them. And that's because Eli was 4 when Jonathan died and Charlie was 7, right?
Was he 4?
I think so.
Or is he 3.5, almost 4? I don't remember. I mean, this happened before I came in.
3 years ago. It'll be 3 years ago. So he was 3.
Sure, I was 6.
3 and 6, so not 4. So 3 and 6. And Jonathan was really not well for definitely all of Eli's life and most of Charlie's. There'd be days where he couldn't get out of bed, or I'd drag him out of bed and he didn't, or like when he would play with them, he would like lay down upstairs in the playroom while playing with them. Like it wasn't like, I don't know,
sometimes in all fairness, kids are exhausting.
Of course.
If you're a parent, you lay down, play with your children.
That's true.
We're not saying
this is a different level for sure.
This was a completely different situation we're talking about here.
You're right. It's a very good distinction. I lay down with them all the time, so you're more than welcome. But it's just he didn't have I would ask too. I'd be like, "What is that? Like, is that normal? Like, is?" And he'd be like, "I don't know." And I'd be like, "Okay." Like, and you just took initiative, and it's been big shoes to step into, and I think that's why the question kept coming up of like,
wiped a butt or 2.
You've definitely done that.
Yeah.
You texted me one time when you were like with them, and you're like, "I've definitely wiped your son's butt. I definitely had to do that." I was like, "All right, see you in 20."
Yeah. Then after that, it was you're going to learn how to do that. I think that was the
next conversation.
That was Carter's one and done. We're going to teach you how to fold and do the whole deal and be done with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, but that also, I guess, speaks to the trust that you put into me as well. And take the kids out and then, of course, talking to them, teaching them about their body parts and how to keep them clean and be appropriate with them, things of that nature. But aside from that, there's other skills. We've changed bike tires together. We've learned how to fish, baseball, soccer. There's all sorts of stuff. So it's not just talking to kids.
Manly bonding.
Their body parts. There's been a lot that's gone in. Nerf guns.
Yeah. And you've shown up to, without me even asking, you've shown up to things like meetings at school, and you're like, I want to be there. Like you can, just like in the beginning, like you've continued to show up, and I'm not used to that. And so I needed to build that trust of like, this is going to stay. And I've had support along the way. And I used to tell Carly has supported me a few years ago, right after Jonathan passed. And I would talk about this. I was like, this is so much to take on. And she would say, and I'm like, I'm a lot. I'm a lot. And she'd be like, you are a lot.
You are.
I know. I'm a lot in the best way. But Carly said, you're going to need a strong man who can like not handle, but who embraces all of my allotness. And she's like, but it's okay to be all of me, and it's okay to show someone all of me, and the right person will be okay with that. So I think I'd love to talk a little bit about why I have decided that it's time. Your coming out party.
We are not expecting.
That's funny.
That's a joke.
That's funny. We have talked so much about how many things, all of my clients know that I've been, like, I tell my clients know about you. And again, going back to like, I knew what I wanted a relationship to look like, and I knew what it could look like, but bringing it to fruition was a process. I've utilized things within our relationship that, I've spoken these things to my clients and supported them of like, this is the way that a relationship can look. But then I've been able to almost give examples of how, and it's given me more confidence.
I've not gotten a commission on this work. News to me. Checks in the mail, right?
But I've used you as like a marker of, or a confidence of an example or this or that. And I think that we talk so much about, there are so many complex things, kind of like our first bomb of a podcast that we will put in the archives and, laugh at.
Maybe some blooper reels.
Yeah, blooper. There you go. But like, we talked about so much stuff. We talked about blending a family. We talked about, supporting me through grief. We talked about, because grief is a process. We talked about, there's not another man in the relationship, but like Jonathan will always be a part of this dynamic, if you will, or a part of the children. Like we talked about, communication between the two of us and how it's functioned, and even our conflict resolution. Like we just talked about so much in the first podcast that I think you and I we have such in-depth conversations and such vulnerable, honest conversations that we're like, this would be so great to talk about. And we basically did it in our first podcast in little like nuggets, which was not fully expressed the whole,
right.
And
we're struggling, but we're staying on track for this.
We're doing a good job.
Very well.
We're doing really good. Yes. High five. Not hard.
No rabbit holes.
No rabbit holes. But See, doesn't this feel better?
Yeah, it's a little awkward still. Most of our conversations don't have a microphone, a camera, and getting broadcast to whoever listens to it.
But I think that there's so many other conversations that we would love to have and share as a way of being supportive to our community, my
Sure.
community.
Maybe certain topics in the future we'll tackle on communication or even trust, other things of that nature. Just blending families, as we did discuss on our first go at this. It's not a bomb. There's
I know.
great
It was
stuff
good stuff.
on
It
there.
was good stuff. It was good stuff.
It's
You're
just
right.
a lot.
It was just a lot.
And it was all over the place.
And it was,
yeah. This is a little more.
But it's also really awesome to get a male perspective, because I know men listen to this podcast and they have reached out to me, and some have even worked with me who have said this podcast has been wildly supportive to them. And in a true relationship, and I think that this did not happen in my relationship with Jonathan, but in a true relationship, I think that both emotions matter. And I think that there's something in society that we as women, sorry, I love you mamas, but we as women, the permission, especially during like COVID and all the mom spoofs, and like it was needed to give us permission to just like basically complain, and give us permission to be like, this is hard, and give us permission to be like, this kind of sucks at times. But I think because it's given us permission to do that, I think men are such logic brain and have such a black and white thinking. I sometimes think that again, I love you women, but I sometimes think that we forget that you're allowed to have feelings too, and that you struggle too. You may not voice it. And I've always basically done a one-person job, as like trying to bring in the voice of the male to be like, hold on, like they matter too, or like saying like a little caveat to whatever I was saying. And sometimes it's just best to have that male voice that I can utilize you for.
I have to agree. It's with men, the age that I am growing up, in the generation I grew up in, we were really taught not to express our feelings. We were taught not to show vulnerability. It's a sign of weakness. I don't 100% disagree with that in some situations. I think there's some situations where you do need to remain strong and stand your ground on things, whether it be in a protector role or things of that nature. But as far as opening up, even like men don't open up to other men.
Yeah.
That's kind of what started me doing what I do, is creating that space for, as a man, other men to come in and talk about how they're doing.
Or how they're struggling.
I mean, as you can see, using Jonathan as an example, it's like a silent struggle. And no one knew until it got to the point that it had happened. So the goal is to not let men hit that point. So many men, and I know you've covered this topic before, hit burnout. Like so many of them do not show a vulnerable side of themselves. They do not talk about their feelings or their emotions. And we like to bottle it up. And man, when that erupts or explodes or whatever you want to call it, there could be months of shit that come to the surface on that. And we've just kept it in. We've kept it in until it's eaten us absolutely alive. And then we just unleash. And we unleash it in such an unhealthy way. And it can come out many different ways, but usually it's like an attack. It's not us expressing our feelings. It's not us expressing our emotions or just telling you why we feel the way we feel. We're pissed at that point. Like it's just come out and you're catching the brunt of it, which then as a woman in turn, your reaction is to
cry,
shut down.
Yeah. I think it's on both sides. I think we both do that. I think women hold it in and hold it in and hold it in and finally explode. And then I think that partnerships become punching bags for one another. And there were certain things that I still am so unwilling to repeat. Like so unwilling to repeat. And I think we both do a really great job of doing what we need to do for ourselves, but also supporting each other when we can. And we also check in with one another and like almost protect each other in a way of like, we were having a conversation today. You were like, I'll take the kids on Friday, let Lolo have the day off. And I was like, yes, but I don't want you to get burnt out with your family coming in town. We check on each other to make sure that we are staying regulated, right?
I think too, it's healthy. I don't feel you can really over communicate, or you can
definitely under.
Yeah, you can definitely under, and you can beat a dead horse. But if you're having healthy communication in whatever relationship you're in, and you're working with that person, you're talking about your feelings, you're talking about your emotions, but more importantly too, you're checking in on them and you're listening to what they have to say. I think that's really when you grow the most, and that's what strengthens. I know for us, like I personally was early on in things, was like our communication. Our communication has not always been what it is today.
It's
Like
grown.
we have worked,
but
at
we
it.
both actively worked
Yes,
at it. Yeah,
and we have grown it to what it is, and now seemingly it comes natural. It's just how we interact with one another. We check in with one another. We talk about whatever may be going on. Sometimes we got to pull it out of one another, but
not as much anymore.
Not as much, no.
That was.
And it's really.
I don't cry in the corner anymore with the dogs. It's protection.
It's
Ooh.
not protection from me, by the way.
No, just protection from
comfort.
saying the thing, having the communication.
But yeah, we've worked at it, and I think it just goes to show that it is attainable. It's not something that's impossible.
I think that's a really good point, and probably another driving force of why I wanted to finally do this with you is I think, even going back to that question of like, why are you here? Like, why are you still here? Even through the midst of going through a storm, even through having trauma the way that I've had, even going through all the things that you've gone through, you can still find good, and you can still find healthy, and you can still find a partnership and, do life together that feels best and right for you. And I hope others know that it's obtainable for them. And there's like so many more conversations we can have. We'll do like Q&As and ask everyone. Well, you let us know what you want us to talk about. I mean, we're definitely not perfect.
No.
And we don't want to.
And we definitely have worked at things too.
Yep.
But I can say I'm proud of the work that we've done. Mm-hmm. It wasn't time wasted or misused.
Mm-hmm. So, ladies and gents, this is Carter. We did it.
Do you want to close it? Should we close it? Oh, fine. When you go.
I know. So.
There's the feet you've all asked for. There they
That's
are.
That's
gross. That's the Q&A. Show me those feet.
I think this is one you guys are going to have to watch on YouTube to get the full effect.
Hide those toes. Those are $1 million toes. Someone overseas is offering good money for that.
I don't understand it. Why do people DM me and they're like, oh, can you do another reel with your toes? I'm like, gross. Goodbye. Block. Yet. Well, until next time, what's my send-off? Do you know my send-off?
Thank you for listening, and keep thriving, parents.
No, it's XOXO, Dr. B.
Gossip Girl.
I know, it does kind of sound like Gossip Girl. It just kind of, it happened and it stuck, and I...
What's it going to be, Brooke? Goodbye.
So the big secret's out, and I'm glad everyone knows. This is Carter.
Goodbye.
next time, XOXO, Dr. B.